Welcome to the Daily Divorce Dads Dojo, the 4D. I'm your host, John Clement, and this is January 31st, 2025. So today, we are going to get into the third myth of things that divorced dads have to go through, or how things are for divorced dads. This particular myth is completely poisonous and pernicious. This is an excerpt from the upcoming book, Divorce Court Destroyed My Life, Now What? How to Give Yourself and Your Children a Fighting Chance for a Comeback in Life. So the book will be available right about the time that we wrap it up here on this YouTube channel. And you can pre-order it now. There'll be a link down below. And it is intended to be chock full of things to take care of you and your children, both mentally and physically. Your psychological and your physical needs are super important. So this section of the book that we've been going through right now is on myths about things that affect divorced dads. And so this is the third one. It's the last one. And then tomorrow we will start to get into how to take care of yourself, how to prepare for that better future than maybe the crappy present you're experiencing right now. So let's go ahead and get into this third myth. So this third myth is that kids figure it out eventually. No, in most cases, no. That's a very poisonous myth because it becomes an excuse for complacency. It becomes an excuse to just give up. Rights-violated parents are depressed and feel defeated anyway. Rights-violated parents are usually exhausted beyond what they ever thought their limits were in their life before any of this happened. And that's how it feels to a lot of us, is that at that point we're in some kind of different life than the life that we had before. That the life we had before was, it's like it happened to a different person or something. That the life we had before just is completely in a different world from the life that we have then when we're going through this stuff. But this pernicious myth, the myth that, kids will figure it out eventually, that myth is dangerous and poisonous, pernicious, because it promises that if you just wait, then time itself will fix everything for you, when nothing could be further from the truth. Now, there are rare cases in which adults stolen as children, or ASCII kids, ASC, adults stolen as children, there are rare cases of adults stolen as children who later did figure things out, but those are the rare exception and not the rule. In 2003, a colleague at a job that I had at the time told me the story of how he had spent, as he had reckoned it, half of his life hating his dad and the other half hating his mom. His mom had programmed him to hate his dad and to shut his dad out of his life completely. Then, when the man telling me the story turned 18, it was time for him to go to college, and there was no money. His mother went upstairs to their attic and started bringing down from the attic box after box after box. Now, these boxes contained letters from the dad to his son that the mom had plucked out of the mail any time that they came for years and had hidden them from her son in these boxes in the attic. Now, along with each letter was a check written to, not written to the mom, but the check was written directly to the son. Now, the checks, after all these years, were all still good to cash, and they had kept coming faithfully for years. Years and years of these checks. Now, the son deposited these checks and got enough money to pay for his college. So this man spent the first half of his life hating his father because he'd believed lies about his father, and then spent the second half of his life hating his mother for lying about his father, and in effect, stealing his father from him. Then in 2019, a colleague at a job I had that year told me about his adult daughter and how she had learned the truth about him and stopped hating him. She had been, something had happened to her that I guess YouTube doesn't like you to talk about, whatever. It's not an important topic that society needs to talk about, but, like I said, whatever. But Her mother's live-in boyfriend had been, let's just say, doing inappropriate naked things with her for years and years. Now, while these inappropriate naked things from the mom's live-in boyfriend were going on, the courts had done nothing. Now, my colleague fought to get custody every day for years and years until his daughter turned 18 and just aged out of the system. Now, because she had been psychologically messed up by her horrible childhood of these regular inappropriate naked events happening with her mom's live-in boyfriend, and her own mother did nothing about it, it was hard for the girl to adjust to life as a well-balanced adult, and because she wasn't a well-balanced adult, and she couldn't really land on her feet with her own place and self-sufficiency as an adult. So even though she hated her dad because of lies her mom had programmed her with, out of just sheer desperation, she went to live with her dad, because she's obviously not going back to the place with the person who just was inappropriately naked with her while she was a girl. But one day, my colleague telling me the story, one day he came home from work and found his daughter bawling on the floor inside a circle of papers just laid out all around her. Just these papers just in a circle, like they were the petals of a flower, and she was like in the middle of the papers, just bawling her eyes out on the floor. She had gotten into her dad's court records, and had just read a whole bunch of his court records, and she had learned the truth that her daddy had never given up on her, and that he had fought for her every day all the way until she had turned 18, and that the courts just simply dumped the case because the courts just let her age out. And that's a whole nother problem. There's a whole nother topic. We're going to do whole shows on that in the future about how the courts just refuse to actually do their jobs and just let kids age out. But her mom had lied to her all those years, telling her that her dad didn't care about her and wanted nothing to do with her. When, of course, reality is nothing, reality couldn't be further from that. Nothing could be further from the truth. So my colleague said that his daughter clung to him for a long, long time, crying, not wanting him to let her go, because she finally realized that she had had a good father the whole time in her life, and that the system and her mom had stolen that good father from her, who did everything possible the whole time to stop the, inappropriate naked things with the mom's live-in boyfriend, and to get her away from that situation. He said that he and his daughter are very close now. But, these two stories of kids figuring things out later in life, they are the rare exceptions. And look what those kids had to go through to have the light bulb come on over their heads, to figure out the truth about their dads. So no one should have to go through that. And no one should be lied to as a child about their father in the first place. So parental alienation is a topic of the second volume in my Divorced Dads Dojo series, which is to be released fall 2025. And there I've got will have an entire, depending on when you listen to this, there I either have or will have an entire book devoted to this topic. But for the purposes of mentioning it here, I just want to point out that the idea that kids will figure it out later on is a myth and a lie from the pit of hell. If you sit back and do nothing, then you are doing exactly what the enemy wants you to do by believing this lie, that kids will figure it out later. So what do you do about parental alienation? Well, this book is about how to take care of your mindset and you and your kids' immediate needs while they are young, and especially if you've got some access to them that the court so graciously calls visitation, end quote. But the thing is, you can't really visit your kids because they're your kids. You're not an uncle. You're not a friend. You're not a cousin. You're not their big brother from a Big Brother program. You are their dad. Dads don't visit. Dads raise. But anyway, I don't want to get too far away from the script here. So, and we've got all kinds of shows and guests coming on to talk about these things, psychologists and all sorts of people. But so Divorce Dad's Dojo Volume 2 will devote an entire book to dealing with adult kids who've moved out and unfortunately as adults still believe lies about you. And their belief in those lies are preventing them from bonding with you. Those are ASCII kids, ASCs, adults stolen as children. But in the meantime, here in this book, having discussed the 3 major myths about dealing with being a divorced dad, myth number 3 today, myth number 2 yesterday. You can go back and listen to myth number 1 the day before. But let's get on with the main event. Things that you may need to do to survive and to prepare you and your children for a comeback in life. So that's where we're going to pick up in the book tomorrow for tomorrow's video. In the meantime, I want to give a shout out to all the people that I have met just in the past few days since I've been promoting these videos, and all the people who have kind of glommed on to my series Don Espino de la Rosa and the Dinos of Dreadcastle. I'm a fiction writer, and I write an ongoing serialized fictional book about the fantasy characters that my 2 sons played growing up in our I'm a nerd, gamer, game master dad and stuff like that. So games like Dungeons and Dragons and games like that. So I do write fiction, and you can support my fiction financially at no cost to you simply by subscribing to the fiction books, including Don Espino de la Rosa and the Dinos of Dreadcastle, which is dedicated to parents of divorced parents who are have for some amount of time been separated from their kids. So when I write on that book, that does make me feel connected to my sons and to the memories that we do have together. So and it's a great way to bring awareness and to divorced parents and families who've been impacted by the divorce industrial complex and stuff like that. So so you can financially support these efforts here at no cost to you simply by subscribing to those serialized books. And I realize not everybody's a nerd and not everybody's going to necessarily be into fantasy and sci-fi and stuff like that, but recommend it to somebody who is. There's a lot of fans of that kind of stuff out there. Otherwise, I'm one of them. So in the meantime, we will see you tomorrow here on this video, and don't forget to look down below for the link to the Divorce Dad's Dojo Facebook community, the Facebook page and the Facebook group, where hopefully you can find somebody to talk to. I'll be there a lot. If you've got to talk about stuff that you're going through and there's no one around you, in your offline life to talk to. All right. Well, we will see you tomorrow. Just remember in the meantime that you've got this, Dad. You are your kid's dad. No matter what the government says, you are your kid's dad. No matter what some black-robed tyrant says, you are your kid's dad. No matter what your kid's biomom might say, you are your kid's dad. Even if your kids have been brainwashed by parental alienation, you are your kid's dad. Do not let the enemy win in your mind. If you let them win in your mind, it's over. If you never let them win in your mind, you win. It's your mind, and it's your identity as your kid's dad. Only you can give those things up. I know you hurt. I hurt too. But it's time to get up and fight, fight, fight.